Hello, my friends. I'm super stoked to show you this project because it turned out so freaking good. So, my name is Debbie Tona. I am a furniture artist and own a beautiful store in Nampa, Idaho. I love to do decoupage art on furniture, meaning I take tissue paper, apply it to furniture, and then paint the furniture to make the tissue paper look like it's actually this gorgeous portrait on a piece of furniture. So let's start. I usually use really high grade tissue paper. I do have this print in stock. I will link it in the description, so if you'd like to buy some, and I have a variety of other high quality tissue papers. So I just went ahead and did the water tear thing where you just take a wet paintbrush dipped in water and tear the tissue paper. So this is the piece I'm working on. It's a beautiful smaller cabinet with a nice door. It's got lots of storage inside. Always make sure that you put white behind wherever you're going to lay down your tissue paper. That way the design will be very vibrant. If you do not do this, you will not get a vibrant design. You'll get a very muddled design. So put some white paint down. I just used a chalk paint. The chalk paint's dry. Now we're going to try to figure out where to place this thing. Now this was kind of a different piece because at first I was like, what am I going to do? Because it's got some scrolly things on it. So I had actually kind of cut the paper off. There was flowers that went up above that. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to take those off. So I laid it down. I was trying to figure out, do I want it underneath the scrolly things? Do I want it to go above the scrolly things? I just really wasn't sure because I've never really done one with the scrolly little thingies on there. You can see them on there. So basically I laid down some clear coat, and my preferred clear coat that works the absolute best is Dixie Belle's Satin Clear Coat. The reason I like this one over like the Mod Podge stuff is that it's designed for furniture, and it will seal your furniture, and it has a really good open rate time, so it doesn't dry super fast, and it just works magnificent. So I am putting it down on the surface and then kind of just smushing out my tissue paper. I'm trying right now to figure out where the heck I'm going on these scrolls. In the long run, I ended up just going right over the top of the scrolls. I actually added more flowers to the top of it and the whole thing. So I should have just went with that in the begin with, but you never know, right? So you basically lay the satin clear coat down on your surface first, and then you put another coat of it over the top and you let it dry. So if it's not sticking, just add some more. And I do it in sections at a time. So I am trying to figure out how to get around these scrolls. It was such a dilemma for me, like seriously. And I should have just went right over the top of them. But anyhow, so you basically take the satin clear coat and you lay it, or you put it down on your piece and do a little bit at a time. I like to take a dry brush, and it will help me smooth out my paper. If I don't use like a dry brush to help smooth out my paper, then I will definitely get lots of wrinkles in it. Now I'm going to get wrinkles anyhow, just because it's a 20 by 30 sheet of paper, and it's virtually impossible to not get wrinkles. Now some people use the iron method and all that. I don't want to do that. Not on my vintage furniture. I don't want to mess with the wood by putting iron on it. So right here I am just getting the paper aligned with the scrolls. That way I can try to figure out where I'm going to go. I will do a whole 360 redo and just add pieces over the top of it, because after it dried, I'm like, why didn't I take off the flowers that I will show you in a minute that I'm going to put back on? So basically, fit your tissue paper to size, to where you want it. Lay down satin clear coat, then right over the top, paste some more, and bada bing, bada boom, you're done, basically. So while the decoupage is drying, I'm going to mix up some paint. So I really like to put some texture on these pieces, especially when I'm going over the tissue paper and trying to make it look like just one whole thing. So I'm taking some dark green. This is actually Dixie Belle's Collard Greens. I love this color. It's like an army green. And I'm adding salt wash to it. What salt wash does is it's a texture medium. It's a dry powder that you add to your paint. And I basically got my paint to be like a brownie batter consistency. So when it doesn't just run off my brush, right? And then I'm going to pounce it on. I'm going to pounce it on. You can see where the tissue paper has dried. And I'm still not decided on putting the extra little flowers. I'm going to do it in a second because I realized that it needed something. It kind of stopped in those scrolls and it looked funny. So I'm basically just laying down a base coat. What I like about this is that it allows me to really move the additional colors that I'm going to put over the top of this to really look like that design just reaches off that paper like craziness. I'm going to trim the excess now that it's dry with a piece of sandpaper. Basically, I just sand down along the curve of wherever it's sitting to get a perfectly cut paper every time. Every time. If your paper lifts a little, just add a little more clear coat in the seam and grab an X-Acto knife and cut so that your doors will open, and you just kind of go from there. Just get a really sharp blade. That's the only way to do that. Get a really sharp blade after it's dry. So this is where I decided, okay, Debbie, add those flowers that you tore off because I think it needs it. So a great way to get your paper to stretch is to get it wet. So I'm adding some top coat right here. See, this is after the fact. I've painted it. I'm just going to add it right over the top. I am adding that satin clear coat right there. I've wet my paper because remember, I'm going over those scrolly things. And so they're like little hills and valleys that I'm trying to make the tissue paper, so to speak, bend and stretch. So by wetting the paper first on the reverse side of the print, don't wet it on the print, wet it on the back side. And I'm just kind of manipulating it and adding some satin clear coat over the top. Everything else has been dry. The paint's been dry. My other part of the design is dry. But it just needed something. It just needed a little oomph. So I'm adding back the pieces that I tore off. And just trying to go right over those clear things and then basically just gluing them back on with the satin clear coat. Letting that layer dry. And then we will start our blend over the top and working our way around this whole piece. So I picked a real good palette of colors. I picked a dark green, like a grass green, and a little bit of a lighter green. I picked red because what I do is I go and I look at my design and I pull colors that I think they don't necessarily match, but they complement. Now remember, I'm a retailer, so I have a variety of paint colors, but basically I pulled the colors from the design. There's a red, there's a turquoise, there's some shades of green in those pods, and I just start pouncing. I am using a small brush. This is a Klingon R14, which is one of my favorites. Now remember, there's texture on the base coat, right? That's why we base coated it first. And basically, we're going to go right over the top of that dark green base coat, and we're going to pull that design so that it doesn't look like I just plopped a piece of paper on a piece of furniture. So I take little bites of paint, little tiny bites, and I start blending and pouncing until all of a sudden the design appears to just keep going. So you can't tell where the tissue paper started and where it stops. Now I'm going to do this in layers. Like right here, I added a little bit of that kind of turquoisey blue. And a really good tip for you guys is when your colors don't exactly match, paint right over that tissue paper and bring the color that you're painting with into your design. That's how you make it coordinate really, really well. You just keep adding little bites, and I got a little artist brush here so I could add little bites, and then I'll use my R14, which is a smaller brush, to kind of smush out the paint. So it's like not just painted on. I'll add a little at a time, and then I'll take the bigger brush, which isn't much bigger than my artist brush, and kind of just smush it out. Smush it out. I like my words, smush it. And it will eventually just come to life. It's so much fun. And I'm just taking all the little bites of paint. I will add some black to my palette because I noticed like around the bud that I glued on last, it needed some black. I'll add some black. I'll add some of the turquoise. And none of the colors that I had actually matched the design, but the way I paint it by little tiny bites. When I say a bite, I mean on my paintbrush, like hardly any. And I don't switch out brushes. I have two brushes I'm using, a fatter one to kind of smush the colors together, and then a little one to kind of add them here and there, right? Just to enhance. I'll paint right over on the tissue paper design and bring my colors in so they look like they've been there all along. So over on this side, I noticed that this leaf had a tan background. No other part of this design had this color on it. Not sure what happened with that. So I'm going to take that little artist brush and I'm just going to kind of start pulling it down and using that dark green that I started and just kind of disappearing that tan. A little at a time, a little and that's literally what I'm doing, even though this is at double speed. And then I will add the colors that are in the design, the turquoise, the red, and make them so that they appear like they're still exploding off the page, so that everything coordinates. There's a grass green, there's a dark green, there's like a medium mossy green. I've got that pretty red, which is actually called pomegranate. That's from mud paint. And then I'm trying to, like I just did with my hands, like make it all look like it all belongs. So yeah, there's turquoise in the bottom flowers. So why not bring it up on my design on the top flowers, right? It just has to just start to flow off the piece and expand, and it just makes it look so much more natural. Add a little black around those little blooms right there. And basically little bites of paint. I hardly use any paint. The most paint I use is for the base coat. And then it's just little tiny bites, taking a section at a time, stepping back, bite, putting some more on, taking some more, and then suddenly you're like, oh, heck yeah. It suddenly looks like a portrait. So many people ask me when they see these finished pieces, did you actually paint those flowers on there? And I'm like, I am not that kind of artist. I cannot draw a flower to save my life. I can't hardly even draw a stick figure. But I can blend out the paper to make it appear as if I painted the entire design. Isn't that crazy? So much fun. This actually has grown into my passion. I mean, I seriously will do this every day, all day. Love how it comes because it's just like adding the color, and the color selection is absolutely the hardest. So I had on this one like the grass green with the turquoise, and I kind of mixed them together on my brush, and it gave me this really cool like celadon crazy greenish bluish color, which was actually pretty close to the color that was on the paper. And then what I do is I just take the same color and I kind of just put it away from it and then kind of smush it together with the bigger brush. Smaller brush lays it out, bigger brush, and then what does it do? It just makes it so the red, boom, boom, boom. I'm not waiting for this stuff to dry, and nor am I using a different brush to smush it out because the other colors are on there, so then when I tap, they all blend together. It's crazy. But I hope you guys enjoy watching this. I mean, I could watch people paint all day, and I'm sorry I'm talking so much, but I did want to make sure that I tried to explain it to you as much as I could because I know it's kind of confusing. And, you know, when you're not sitting next to me, you just don't get it, right? So basically, bites of paint that coordinate with your picture, and all of a sudden, you've got this. Isn't she pretty? Please remember to subscribe and like, and all the links to the colors and the products that I use, the tissue paper, the clear coat, and the brushes are in my description. I do have a full online store and ship daily if you decide that you would like to buy something. As I always say to everybody that follows me, go out and be fabulous. You can find me also on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you so much.